Welcome back to LePodcast, episode 64. As always, you're here with Hoop, Saney, and the infamous ZZ Huncho. There's been a lot going on in the NBA, but today we want to take a big breath and jump in the time travel portal to determine who the super teams of NBA history have been, how many there have been, what makes a super team. This is just all super team talk. So we're going to go in chronological order, starting with the beginning of time for the NBA standards. It's like 1960, all the way to today. We're going to scream. We're going to yell. We're hopefully not going to curse because this is a family show. But we're going to figure out. Can we jump into this?
Yeah, we can go right into it.
We're not going to say our criteria yet. We decided before the show it would be more fun if we just blab out who we think the super teams are and we yell at each other because we don't know their criteria yet. We'll be forced to discuss it at one point. Decade by decade, let's start with the 60s. Or were there any super teams in the 60s according to you guys?
1969 Lakers with Wilt, Jerry, and Elgin Baylor.
Huncho?
I look at that as like an experiment type team.
Oh, that's a super team.
But
Wilt?
it's because you gotta look at it. Did they even win that year?
What experiment are they running?
Did they win that year?
What?
In
See,
69?
this is that nasty criteria.
We already
type
know.
stuff.
We already know criteria for Z. I already know the criteria for Z.
You need to win to be a super team.
Because look, man, look. If you were to ask me if there was any super teams in the '60s, I would just give you the entire run of the Boston Celtics dynasty because they had a chokehold over the
great
league,
team.
including Wilt Chamberlain.
Are you sure you're going to be disagreeing with me, Hoop? Because you said this episode, you said me and you are going to disagree. Are you sure we're going to disagree?
I thought when you said you were talking based off some guys who were really good in the 60s, I thought you were going to say the Celtics.
No,
I didn't think it was going to
Celtics
be
were a super team.
Exactly,
the
they
Celtics
were.
weren't a super team.
Exactly, they were.
They're like a bunch of great players.
Yeah.
But not a super team.
Z, what's your criteria for a super team?
Okay, so my criteria for a super team is fairly simple, all right? It is more or less like a combination.
Wait, we're already doing criteria?
That's what I was about to say, for real.
No. Let's go through the ball. I want to go through the ball.
Let's keep going.
Yeah,
yeah.
we need to go through all of them. I want to be saying good grief for every decade at this point.
The 70s. I'll go first on this one. I have in 1972 the New York Knicks.
That's fair. I also have a team in 72, and it's the Lakers.
With Goodrich?
Yep, the Goodrich team.
Yeah,
the Goodrich team.
And they still had Wilt, Jerry. They still had Wilt, Jerry.
That's fair.
And Wilt got his only Finals
Gail
MVP.
Goodrich. I'd cook Gail Goodrich.
Damn. In 2K's goal. Stop playing with that.
Well, you also have to think it's relative to era, right?
I understand. But the Knicks, I feel like people don't realize. I know we're not going to get back to this. We're going to talk about the 2010s for most of the episode. So while we're on the 70s, the Knicks, when they won their first title in 70, they had Walt Frazier, Willis Reed, maybe Bill Bradley. But in 72, they added 3 proven perennial all-stars, Earl Monroe, Dave DeBusschere, Jerry Lucas. I didn't realize that they were that cold before they got to the Knicks. That is like a god squad, pretty much built to take on the Lakers, which they did twice. So they lost in 72 because Willis Reed was hurt the entire season, and they won in 73. So I didn't realize the Knicks had such a nice history for a 3-year span. But that's all I got for the 70s.
I also agree with the Knicks, but there's another team that I have in the 70s.
Who else?
The 76 Celtics.
Yeah.
Dave Cowens, JoJo White, Charlie Scott, John Havlicek all average over 17 points per game.
Charlie Scott?
He averaged 18.
I don't care if he averaged 18. JJ Redick averaged 18 for the Sixers in 2019.
Yeah, but you have to remember, and they also won that year as well. And they dominated.
This is why I want to do criteria. I'm going to scream at you for some of these.
No, we're going to talk about criteria at the end.
We are.
We're going to talk about criteria at the end.
All right,
but
80s. I have 1, 2, 3. I have 3 of them.
Of course, I have the Showtime Lakers. If we don't have the Showtime Lakers, I'm leaving this episode.
I don't.
Elgin, or not Elgin, sorry.
James Baylor.
James Worthy, Kareem, and Magic is not a super team to you.
No.
with that roster around them.
This is my criteria, bro. I don't.
But it's relative to era, bro. I'm not
comparing
James Worthy to say. James Worthy at the time.
It'll
James
make
Worthy,
sense
Kareem and
when
Magic.
I say my criteria.
Z, do you have Showtime? Do you have Showtime Lakers?
He's smiling, man. Another thing about super teams, I don't consider them a super team. Consider them a dynasty.
I don't consider them,
but
they're
relative
dynasty.
to era,
they're better than a lot of
relative
super teams. They're not a super team,
right? Relative to era, though, if from that regard, I could totally see Saney's point. Relative to era, depending on which one you want to go with, I feel you. The same way you could go about
when
the
Celtics,
Celtics,
I was judging these teams.
86.
When I was judging these teams, I was judging them compared to other teams in their.
I like it.
I understand your criteria, but it's just not mine. Can I name off mine?
For sure, I have two more for you.
If you want me to explain, I can. I have the 81 Celtics. I have the 83 Sixers.
Yep.
I have the 86 Celtics.
Yep.
That's it. Actually, it's just the three.
I agree with both. I have both of those. I didn't put the 86 out, but I did have the Celtics, and I did have and for the 76ers, I put 82 to 86 because it was the same team the whole way through, basically.
Okay. I'll explain later, but I'm doing the years where they got the talent. Imported.
Sure. I'm doing the years where all the talent was on the team at once.
Sure,
I don't know if it worked out at the time, but failed super teams are still a thing in my.
Yeah. We'll get into a lot of failed.
We'll get into a lot of failed super teams. Yeah, we'll get into a lot of failed super teams. Z, if you want to mention any other team.
Yeah, I was gonna say for the 80s, I had to budge on the 86 Celtics, namely because they got a guy like Bill Walton who had already won an MVP and a Finals MVP for Portland. So it's a matter of and they implemented him off the bench.
In 86?
It was 86 Celtics.
That was 86. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was looking
up.
Yep. I
got you. And you look at the team dynamic that they had with the homegrown talent of Larry Bird and Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish.
Right.
So you could say that because technically they did bring him in free agency wise to get Bill Walton, I could see it from that perspective. And they went on to have, I think,
I was going to say Dennis Johnson.
Dennis Johnson too. He's there.
No, I'm saying that was.
That
was much more prominent at the time. Bill Walton was already off injury.
Right, but at the same time, they still took a gamble on him, though.
And it was a gamble, but he was already not great on the Clippers beforehand. After the injury, he sat a year out. That's what I was just staring at his stats for however long. So that's why I said it.
But outside of that, what did you say? The 83 Sixers?
Yeah, with Malone coming over.
Dr. J. Moses, Barkley.
Yeah, I could see that too.
That line is so cold if they had actually done it.
Yeah, but that's about it for the 80s for me. Like I said, the Lakers are a dynasty. The Celtics were also a dynasty, and they both ran the 80s. But the only other team that you could really throw in there is the Sixers. It's kind of it's one of those weird ones.
Yeah.
Maybe the Rockets, I don't know, Twin Tower Rockets.
No.
Yeah.
We'll get into the Rockets in the next decade. Okay. At least on my end, but
yeah, me too. I only have one team for the 90s, and it's the Rockets. I mean, really? I could have breezed over someone else because I just didn't. I'll be honest.
I put the Bulls with Rodman, Pippen, and
I
MJ.
didn't.
I thought that was a super team. I thought that was a super team. You have the best defender. You have the best player of all time. You have arguably the best defender in the league.
That's not our criteria. I already get it.
See, now you're no, I think they're 100% a super team. A dynasty as well, and they just dominate, bro. Domination, a super team to me is domination.
Okay.
And, all those guys,
I can
tell. Rockets with Pippen, Barkley, and Hakeem in 98, was it?
Yep. No, 97. And believe it or not, they were 22-1 before Barkley got hurt. They were not supposed to be a failed super team. They were crazy, but rip Chuck. Them knees couldn't handle all those weight anymore.
The thing about Chuck that just is the funniest thing to me is how much he scrutinizes Kevin Durant and LeBron, how he scrutinized LeBron James.
That's a fact.
Just how much he scrutinized both of those and said things along the lines of back in my day we weren't chasing no rings. Yeah, Chuck. Back in the day, you weren't chasing rings. You were chasing Krispy Kreme donuts. But you weren't. But what you were doing in '96 and '97, we're supposed to just forget because they were a few years past their prime. Nah, we know what you were doing, Chuck. You waited a year and a half after they had won, after they had just come off of back-to-back titles to say, hey, yeah, I'm gonna go over there. Me, you, and Clyde. And then it was me, and then it was him, Hakeem,
Well, no,
and
Hakeem
Scottie
and
Pippen.
Clyde had already won.
Exactly. So, but you don't hear anybody calling them a super team, do you?
Yeah. Exactly.
It's wild. But that's a gripe I have with Chuck. I love Chuck for everything else.
So
that alone annoys me.
So we headed into 2000s now.
Yeah. I
obviously
teams.
got the Celtics. I got the Celtics, and I got the Lakers in 04.
Same. Yeah, those are my two.
I have. Yeah. The thing is, I have the 08 Celtics, and I put the 04 Lakers in like a mid-tier between Super Team and Experiment, because it was an experiment given that Karl Malone and Gary Payton were not like in their prime and a few years outside.
I have a question for your criteria.
Average. No, hold on.
Wait.
Well,
I was going to say, wait. I know exactly what you're going to ask. Wait till we explain the criteria, because I have a question about
I
his
was going to
criteria.
say he's being kind, because I have like super teams and delusional super teams. I count both. You call delusional super teams and experiment.
Both.
That's very
We'll
kind
talk
of
about
you.
we'll talk on the criteria.
That's very kind of you.
Let's get through these teams so we can talk criteria, because I really want to know both of your criteria.
Me too.
Okay.
In the 2010s, I got to count these up. 1,
This
2,
is the big
3,
one. This
4,
is the big
5,
boy.
6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9.
Okay, so I have the Heat, obviously,
Run through them
10
all.
to 14. I have the Cavs in 2015 and 2016. The Warriors from 2016 to 2019. When you hear my criteria, I don't want to classify them as one, but I'd be going against my criteria if I didn't. But the Hawks in 2015, and then the failed super team in the Lakers in 2013. No, I don't think that talent is a super team, but when you look at the criteria and you look at the general consensus, if you look at the general consensus of what we consider a super team, technically speaking,
he's going based off all-star appearances. That's what it is.
Technically speaking. No, but that, like, when they fill 4 in a when they have 4 all-stars on a single team, and I don't care if there's 4 all-stars on a single team and they have 60 wins in a season and they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. At that point, it's just like, you have to put them in the same boat. You have to.
No, you don't. Well, I
don't think that's the reason why I don't have the Hawks listed in mine. But
if you take out Kyle Korver, there's still 3. There's still 3 all-stars.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I had to kind of like Jeff Teague.
Bro, it's relative to the year, but you have to think super teams are relative to the season they're playing in, bro. Like, who else was there? You're comparing them to other super teams. I'm comparing them to the season they played in. See, I think that's where we differ.
Who
was good in 2015? I really want you to tell me who was good in 2015, because it wasn't the Knicks.
It's not. I don't.
The Bulls.
That was so unnecessary, dog.
That's a cheap shot. That was such a cheap.
I know. I'm messing with you. No, but seriously, like, who was good in 2015? And when you think good, like, think to like. You know what? We'll talk in criteria.
The other super teams clear them to the point where they're not a super team. That's
I
all
agree.
I'm
They're the
saying.
worst super team on my list, but I'm comparing to relative to the year they're playing it. I'm not comparing to other super teams. You have to compare. Like, listen, if I take a 8-year-old and a 4-year-old and I make them play sports against each other, the 8-year-old's going to dominate him. If I have a group of 8-year-olds and 4-year-olds, and I put 3 of the 8-year-olds on one team and all the 4-year-olds on the other team, that 8-year-old team is a super team compared to the 4-year-old.
Jeff
got to think of
Teague's
it
not
that way.
an 8-year-old.
No, but I'm saying it in that perspective, where it's like, if I have a group of players and they're
Damari Carroll,
and I take the
is
above
not an
mid
8-year-old,
and I take the above mid players against the mid players, they're going to be dominating them. They're going to be seen as the superior team.
Okay. For my go ahead, Z.
Go ahead. No, you got it. You got it.
Yeah. So you already heard. I mean, just a part of my criteria you already heard. I count delusional super teams. I have 2011 Heat with LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. I have the 2013 Brooklyn Nets with KG, Paul Pierce, Joe Johnson, Deron Williams, and Brook Lopez. I have the 2013 Lakers with Kobe, Powell, Steve Nash, Dwight Howard. I have the 2015 Cavs with LeBron, Kyrie, Kevin. I got the 2017 Warriors with Steph, KD, Clay, and Draymond. Understand when I say this, it's delusional. I have the 2017 Knicks with Carmelo, Derrick Rose, and Kristaps Porzingis. You'll hear my criteria. I said delusional. I said delusional. I will explain my criteria. I said it was delusional. I have the 2018 Celtics with Kyrie, Gordon Hayward, Al Horford, who was an all-star that year, with Tatum and Brown already drafted. I have the 2018 Thunder with Paul George, Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony. And I have the 2019 Sixers with Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Jimmy Butler, and Tobias Harris.
I completely forgot about some of these teams. I completely overlooked I forgot about the 2013 Nets. I forgot about the what was it? What would you just the 2018 Celtics? Because when I think of the Celtics, I just think of Gordon Hayward broke his ankle. I didn't even consider Gordon Hayward to be a player.
That's crazy.
For that year, I forgot. So I understand most of them, but I want to hear Z's first, and then we'll get the 2020s, and then we're gonna talk criteria because there's no way I got called out for the Hawks.
All the viewers are being so judgmental right now because they don't know a criteria. Like, oh,
we've all said some ridiculous takes, but the thing is, I feel like they all fit our criteria. There's no true set ideology on what a super team is.
There is the best one though. There is the best one,
100%. There's the best one, but there's no set idea on what you consider a super team to be. And as long as you're following your criteria, there's no wrong answer.
Yep.
He's right. For me, in the 2010s alone, I had the big three Heatles and the KD Warriors. You can point to 2017. For the Warriors, it was a run of dominance, and for the Heat, it was also a run of dominance. So you can point to 2011 if you want, even 2012, 2013, 2014. You could point to pretty much the era of dominance alone, and however long that was, classifies super team. It's a tenure for me. There are some teams that Hoop and Saney mentioned that I completely understand why they put them in a super team tier. I get Cleveland 2015. I get it. The more and more that the years pass, I understand why people would say that. Even though to me, Kevin Love did not live up to the best that a third option could. It's still okay. I understand. The 2018 Thunder, that was a really good one. I forgot to put that in my experiment tier, but I will now as we get into it. And yeah, that's about it. But let's move on to, what was it, 20? We're at 2020s, right? That should be interesting.
At the very end.
This should be interesting.
I mean, I could be forgetting some, but I just got two. I got 2021 Brooklyn and 2022 LA. Is there any more? Could be forgetting.
I put the Nets. And I didn't put the Lakers. I did not put the Lakers with Russ.
That's fair.
Just because Russ wasn't an All-Star the year before, I believe, or maybe he was. Was he in 2021?
Any man who could average 30, 15, and 15 in a month.
But that was after the All-Star break, remember?
I consider that All-Star caliber. I don't care if you got the star next to your name like Kyle Korver.
Fine. Fair. Are we talking about criteria?
Shout out Kyle, though. All respect, Kyle.
Are we talking about criteria now?
He's a
shooter. It took us 18 minutes to go through our team, so we gotta
do you want to go first, Sadie?
Yeah, I'll go. I kind of wanted to hear you guys, but I'll
go. Sure.
Yeah.
My criteria.
So you're going? Okay.
Yeah, my criteria for a super team is that you, on paper, need to beat everyone else that's not a super team. The only teams that you should be competing with, in a genuine way, are other super teams and other dynasties. The other aspect of a super team is that it cannot be completely homegrown. You need part of that to be assembled, which is why I don't have the Showtime Lakers, which is why I don't have the Dynasty Spurs. Even though they're great teams, I don't consider just dominance for a super team. I think super teams, there needs to be expectations placed on a team when a core member is assembled. They can be delusional expectations, which is why I have Carmelo and, injured Derrick Rose when they thought he was still going to be an MVP. And Derrick Rose said they're going to battle the Warriors with him, Melo, and Porzingis and Joakim Noah. That's delusional. Just like the Nets when they got 36 and 37-year-old Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett. Derrick Rose himself.
No. I know who.
And the front office thought they were cooking. Phil Jackson was going to talk about running the triangle. You don't remember all this? Bro, the Knicks were that was peak Knicks slander.
I remember Rose saying they call it us and KD and Stephen and the super team. I was at the peak of my Rose fandom when he went to the Knicks the first time, and I was like, they're calling you what?
No, that was the peak of a Knicks garbage dumpster fire. But with when it comes to Nash and Howard, even though they're older, expectations are placed on those players. So when you on paper are supposed to dominate everyone that's not a super team, I think you're a super team. Which is why I included guys who didn't dominate other super teams like the Sixers, like the OKC. When in reality, if the Warriors were not a super team with Kevin Durant, like maybe they do like have a much better chance of winning the West. But since they're playing each other, it like lessens it. But that's my criteria.
I disagree with your idea that a super team can't be built through the draft. Like you have to, like a super team has to include like pieces that were brought in, which is why you don't include the Showtime Lakers. You can draft a super team. I think that is possible, and that's why I still do consider the Showtime Lakers to be a super team. I don't see the issue, and while I do see your side of it, where it's like, oh, the expectations are very high. You're coming into the season. I could give you a great example to the Boston Celtics. They drafted Jason Tatum, they drafted Jaylen Brown, they drafted all these guys, but they still have very high expectations going into every season.
I should add that there's an unfairness to the rest of the league in what's happening.
If you want to say unfair, sure.
That's for me my point. Sorry. That's like the thing that holds us all together.
Expectations can come to any team, right? Like the Showtime Lakers still had expectations. While I do understand the unfairness, I don't think that should take away from the fact that teams can draft a super team, because I think that kind of gives them a get out of jail free card in terms of like us talking about how good they really were. If you want to call it like you want to call out players for creating super teams, that's different. Like with LeBron and Kevin Durant, people call them out. But I still do think that a team can draft players who they have a couple of superstars on their belt or whatever, and they become a super team. So that's where I disagree with you there. My definition of a super team, and I know Z, I think it was you that brought this up. I'm not going to define it by playoff success. I don't care what they did in the playoffs. My definition of a super team is what we think about them during the season, what we thought about them heading into the season. Like, how did they stack up against other teams? Because there's a lot of failed super teams, great point being the Nets, right? Or injuries, in example, the Rockets. Like, I'm not going to take
You're saying general consensus or what you thought of them?
General consensus.
I feel like you're missing a lot of teams then. Those mellow PG Rust teams were hyped.
No, I talk about them. I have a big thing about why I don't think that OKC team was a super team. Don't worry. But so a super team can get bounced in the second round, and I'll still list them as a super team. I know I think Hoop is the one who agree with that, and Z doesn't. So I want to go into and ask Z why he feels that a ring solidifies that role. But after looking into it, I'm not going to abide by the general consensus of a super team. If you look it up, there's like a couple a couple reporters try to like set a definition of it. I don't think there is an exact definition. But for me, I think
they thought they were them.
Yeah, like they try to like tell you who's a super team, who's not, right?
All right, guys, calm down. This is what it means.
I will say this. I think a good way to look at it is there are 3 perennial all-stars on a single roster, with one of them being not just like 3 mid-level all-stars, like a high-level all-star there, which is why I put the Hawks, because Paul Millsap, Al Horford, they were seen as one of the better big men in the league in 2015. In 2015, let's slow your horses. And I also did it relative to the season. I know you, Hoop, you said you stacked up against other super teams. No, I'm stacking it up against the competition they were playing in that time.
At their position or the overall competition?
At their position.
That's nonsense, because the bigs were so weak in the East in 2015.
Exactly, relative to their season, bro. But that's what I'm trying to tell you. It's relative to their season.
The Hawks won how many games?
I'm not going to compare.
If your best player is like the second best big man, but the 17th best player, that makes no sense.
Still top 20 player, and you have 2 of them. You have 2 of them and another 2 all-stars.
No. I didn't even say he
was
17. I didn't even say he was 17.
No, but I'm just saying, like, as an example. But
you said a top tier player? That's top 20 to you?
I can't include the Hawks because, bro, I remember back in the day when they were winning those 60 games.
They were dominating, bro.
Games,
they were dominating.
I remember back then, for as much as they were dominating, I said this to myself in, 8th grade or whatever. I was like, for as much games as they're winning, I know for a fact that if I look across that marquee in April and it says the Atlanta Hawks versus the Cleveland Cavaliers, LeBron's winning.
Sure, yeah, but that's LeBron, bro. They went up against another super team in the 2015 Cavs, which we all agreed were a super team.
But
they went up against the Cavaliers, who had Kyrie, LeBron, and Kevin Love. How is that different?
They did have Kyrie and Kevin Love, but we're talking about the Hawks.
I understand Hoops. I understand Hoops' point, all right. But Z, your point is that they got
swept.
They got
swept,
bro. To a team that we considered to be a super team.
To a real super team.
Exactly, it's delusional. I told you it's the worst super team on my list.
Good point. But still,
I'm not backing them as to stacking up against other teams.
I disagree based on the free agency point. I get your side with this.
Thank you. And they had at the end of the day, they had 4 All-Stars. You know me. I'm the number one hater on the Jeff T. Kyle Korver All-Stars. I'm the number one hater. But if I'm sticking to
I don't think Russell Westbrook was an All-Star in 2021.
if I'm sticking to my ideology on a super team, when I look at that on paper, 4 of their 5 starters were selected as all-stars, and their team was good. Like, they had Damari Carroll, like, they had good role players around them. No, don't give me that. I'm just saying, like the players around them, like, compared to 2015, you have to put them in that conversation. It's the worst. I agree, it's the worst. It's 100% the worst team in this conversation. But relative to that season, I'm pretty sure they had a better record.
No.
I think they had the best record in the league.
You tied yourself up here. What were the expectations on that Hawks team? The general consensus expectations.
They had the best record in the league, but
they ended up with the best record in the league.
So you're not a part of this.
So on paper, I have to consider them to be a super team. Not every super team has to have expectations going into it. I can consider a team to be a super team by the end.
It's your criteria.
If they meet other positions of my criteria.
Sure.
So, for example, I could have low expectations for a team and they end up becoming insane and they're dominating and they have 3 All-Stars. Then I'm like, okay, that's a super team. I didn't think of them as a super team beforehand, but they became one. Just how we thought the 2013 Lakers were a super team, but later on in the season, they didn't. They weren't one. It's the vice versa. I could say the same exact thing.
So what about general consensus expectations for, like, the 2013 Lakers? Because they got to white off Orlando.
They were supposed to ring. That was supposed to be a ring.
You didn't say that team.
And they won. And I called them a super team because I think they're a delusional super team.
I thought you didn't say it. Okay.
No, I did. And they only won 45 games that season, and they got bounced out in first round. They were the 8 seed, correct?
They were not that good.
No, but we thought of them as a super team, and we realized they weren't.
And then it cost them his Achilles.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing, that this is where we kind of separate here, because for me, my criteria on super teams is simple. It is a combination, or a multitude rather, of all-star level at least caliber players and or superstar caliber players, such as in the case of the Big Three Heatles, where you have 3 individual guys that you can put them all on their own individual teams and they can, lead the way. The 08 Celtics, same exact situation. The KD Warriors is a different beast, because the KD Warriors was a combination of 2 perennial MVP candidates and Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, with an all-star in Klay Thompson, with an all-star and best defender in the league, Draymond Green, and a perennial all-star in Iguodala. Like, they just had a big 4 and or big 5, depending on how you looked at it. Matched with great coaching, matched with bench depth, matched with a lot of the key intangibles, right? So when I look at a super team, the reason that championship success and things of that magnitude are very, very important to me is because a lot of the teams that I have as experimental teams, those that feature like Hakeem and Barkley and Clyde and the 04 Lakers and the 2020 and the 2012 and 13 Lakers, the 2021 Nets, the 14 Nets. There's a similarity that these teams have with each other, and it is the idea alone that they bought in to win now. They threw everything on the table and said, we need to win right now. I don't give a damn about the future. I don't give a damn about none of that. Some of these teams in the experimental category threw their entire future away and are still reaping the benefits of that to this day. Some of them have just gotten them back. Like the Brooklyn Nets they're trying their damnedest to recover from what Danny Ainge did to them in 2014.
They look solid though. Like, I'm very surprised.
They finally got back on Q.
They got lucky.
But they did.
No, but I think they got back on Q when Kevin Durant went.
Right.
I don't think they just got back on Q now. I think they've been back on Q since D'Angelo Russell came and he was an all-star, because then they flipped them into more pieces. Like, they got assets once they flipped Brook Lopez for D'Angelo Russell, because they let D'Angelo Russell develop, and the second you have an all-star that young and you can trick other teams into thinking, hey, he's going to play the same way he played with us, now you have assets again. So they got rid of all their assets, and it realistically only took them like 4 seasons to get those assets back.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you on that point too. But so basically for me, another category that I also have is dynasties, because I feel like there is a common misconception between the two, namely based off of the Chicago Bulls in the 90s. Now, people love to point to that 96 Bulls team, 72-10. People love to point to, for some reason, and only point to Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman.
Rodman was all right,
three-peat.
but he's not.
Think about it. This is how I look at it. If we're going to point to Mike and Scottie and Dennis Rodman of the 95-96, 96-97, and 97-98 teams, then we need to point to the 91 Bulls, 92 Bulls, and 93 Bulls as well. Because basically what you're saying is because they won 3 straight and this was their big 3, they're a super team. And people always say that because of the name value. Oh, they had one of the greatest, if not the greatest rebounder of all time in Dennis Rodman. Well, when you look at the roster that they had when Horace Grant had left, who else was going to get rebounds for them? It could not be a 33, 34-year-old Michael Jordan. And Scottie Pippen had back problems by the Last Dance season alone in that final series. So, I mean, damn. So I look at them as a dynasty. Dennis Rodman himself was a missing piece to a dynasty, but I can't build a team around Dennis Rodman in 1996. You're not going anywhere. You might be able to build one around Scottie maybe, but that's neither here nor there.
Okay, so your criteria is you have to be able to build around each of the pillars of the team.
The main components of the super team.
I like, you know what? That's a nice way to look at it. For me,
thank you.
You know what? I'm agreeing with your picks more and more in the other. I don't. That's not my criteria, but I understand the criteria where it's like I should be able to take this guy, put him on a random dying team, and then be able to develop him. But the reason I chose the Bulls is because I know a dynasty doesn't mean you're a super team, but there is not a team that I see, unless we're talking like 60 Celtics, which I'm not going to talk about. But in recent history, when I see a dynasty team and I look at how that team is built, like for example, we use the Bulls, and I'll tell you why I consider them to be a super team. The greatest player of all time and Michael Jordan. That's already the best piece to start with when you're building a roster. And then you have the best defender in the league and a top 10, top 15 player at the time in Scottie Pippen. Can we agree on that, right? And then you have the biggest dog in the world in Dennis Rodman, who literally dominates.
He might be the biggest dog of all time.
We'll
have to do a dog rankings.
Dennis Rodman.
We'll have to do a dog ranking sometime.
Yeah, we have to do. That's such a good episode idea. We're doing top 10 dogs of all time. Oh my God! Don't even watch it because you'll know who's number 1. But we got Dennis Rodman, who the Bulls, in terms of rebounding, they lack talent. In terms of rebounding, in terms of hustling, they brought in a guy who not only did that for them, but was able to do that for them and allow the Bulls to take another level in terms of how good they were as a team. So when I'm looking at super teams and I'm looking at how they're built as a team and the talent they have on that roster, Dennis Rodman was the most talented guy at the time and maybe of all time at the position he played, at the roles he had, right? So then when I look and you add a guy like that, and I do agree with you, you can't build around Dennis Rodman, but he's the perfect guy to put to a team that's trying to build around another player, if you know what I'm trying to say. So that's why I consider the Bulls to be a super team. And it's not like they had a bunch of scrubs beside them other than those 3 guys, right? Like they had shooters, they had good depth. They were dominance. It was straight dominance, which is why I consider the Bulls to be a super team. And it's why I disagree with your criteria, but I see your side of it at the same time.
I see your point to it.
I hate to cut into this, but we have like 10, 15 minutes left, and I want to start talking about what determines the success of super teams and which super teams were the most successful. That's a whole other conversation itself. But before we do that, Saney Take, I want you to tell me, if Al Horford, who's the best player on those Hawks teams? Was it Millsap?
Millsap, Al Horford.
So I'm going to name a bunch of players from 2015.
Okay.
And I want to see where Paul Millsap / Al Horford falls. Okay.
All right. Fair.
Russell Westbrook.
Russ is better.
James Harden.
James is better.
LeBron James.
LeBron's better.
Don't
give me
Davis.
The obvious ones. Don't give me the top 10. Don't give me the obvious ones. Yes, AD is better.
All right. So DeMarcus, Steph Curry, LaMarcus Aldridge, right? That's pretty obvious.
No, that's a conversation.
No, it's not. In 2015?
Nah, you're right. Yeah. Portland, DeMarcus. I'm thinking Spurs, DeMarcus. I'm thinking Spurs, DeMarcus. I was thinking Spurs, DeMarcus. I was thinking Spurs, LaMarcus.
All right,
Sorry.
Blake Griffin.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Kyrie Irving, that's 9.
Yeah.
Dwayne Wade, 10.
No, in 2015, no. In 2015, no. Dwayne Wade fell off in 2014.
All right.
Like, he was starting to fall off. He doesn't have the same impact as he did in his. We can agree on that.
Then we're talking about Paul Millsap. This is not
and
like
Al Horford in their prime. Like 2015 Dwayne Wade. 2015 Dwayne Wade.
Hold up. Klay
2015
Thompson.
Dwayne Wade.
Klay Thompson.
In 2015?
Yes.
That's a tough one.
44% from 3.
Yeah, I'll take
22 points a game.
But it's tough. It's tough. Like, you got to think about it.
All right. So
give me Klay Thompson.
We're at 10.
Okay.
Dame Lillard.
Dame.
DeMar.
DeRozan on the Raptors?
Raptors, DeMar.
Bro, I'll be honest. DeMar crumbles in big moments on the Raptors. Like,
Paul Millsap?
I guess.
What?
But they went to the Eastern Conference Finals. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals and lost to LeBron James. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals and lost to LeBron James.
It's a team accomplishment, Sandy. It's a team accomplishment.
A super team. We're talking super teams. We're talking super teams. We're talking super teams.
No, we're talking about the best player.
Accomplished.
You said the best player needs to be like a superstar.
Okay.
Because you said based on position, he's like top 5 in his position.
Okay.
Jimmy Butler as a 25-year-old on the Bulls.
That was when he was improved. That was when he was becoming most improved. So I would still take Millsap or Warford. At the time.
I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it.
Chris Paul.
Sorry, I'm going on points per game, so there's some gems down here. How about John Wall?
Oh, Johnny.
Marc Gasol?
Take
Marc Gasol.
Yeah, I'll take Gasol.
I'll take Marc Gasol that year.
Over Al Horford?
He was a couple
That's a conversation. That's a conversation.
Yeah,
that's a conversation.
But I'm saying you're getting into a conversation at like 15. Like
exactly. And we said 17, right?
I said 17.
Yeah, you said 17, and I said sure. So I think we're like, Z, you hear this, right? Like, he's arguing the points that I agree with.
There's Utah Hayward. There's
2015 Hayward? 2015 Hayward? Hell no. Hell no.
Paul Millsap?
Over 2015 Hayward? Hell no.
That's a conversation.
No, I would take Millsap over 2015 Hayward, bro. Now we're getting disrespectful.
Rudy Gay?
You guys are really downplaying. You guys are downplaying like Paul Millsap and Al Horford at
Walker.
this point.
Cardiac Kemba was in full effect in 2015.
No, he became full effect in 2017. Kevin Love, I'll take Kevin Love, yes.
Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, what the? How is he
in
down
2015? No, because he's not a regular season guy.
It's points per game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Kawhi, of course. Yeah.
Zach Randolph. That's a conversation.
No,
that's
it's
a conversation.
Not. It's not. 2015 Zebo. Nah, listen, bro. The Hawks are the worst team on my list. But if I take in the fact that they had 4 of their 5 starters being All-Star, they had 60 wins in that season. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals and lost to LeBron James, who had a super team in the 2015 Cavaliers. I do have to put them in that
Kyle Lowry
boat. No, not Kyle. Bro, come on.
Why not?
Come on.
It was a year before that full court shot against
bro.
Miami.
Nah, listen. 20 and compared to their why were the Hawks so good, bro? Why were the Hawks so good?
Because they were a well-oiled machine. They didn't have a superstar. They played team basketball.
But that can only get you so far. Like, look at the
Warriors. It only got them so far.
They went to the Eastern Conference Finals and lost to LeBron James.
They played in a week. They played in a weak year. They played in a
8-year run.
They played in a weak era. We already agreed.
Yes,
we already
they were a super team relative to their
era. They still did not have a top 15 player. I'm going based off your criteria.
They still had a super team compared to that season, in my opinion. 4 of their 5 starters were All-Stars.
I mean, I get that. I do.
4 of their 5.
I don't.
Being trash All-Stars.
I say I agree with you.
Trash All-Stars, I'll be honest. I don't agree with the All-Star picks, but 4 of their 5 players were All-Stars. So I do have to put them in that boat.
What about 22-year-old Victor Oladipo?
No, bro. Come on. Now we're just getting disrespectful. We're just getting disrespectful. On the Magic.
I'm just playing.
On the Magic.
I'm playing.
And you gotta look at these. And you also have to look at the fact that you're going off of points per game, bro. Like, there was 4 All-Stars on that team. There's obviously not going to be a 27, 25 points per game player.
I'm just saying,
like Paul Millsap could have been easily 20+ points per game. Al Horford could have been a 2010 player.
Paul George, it was injured that year.
Exactly. He was injured. So compared to that season, he had a broken leg. And Paul George came back. And I'll tell you right now, Paul George came back April 5th, 2015. That is the exact date he came back. He came back on April 5th. What do you mean we're not doing that? He didn't play a damn game of basketball. How are we not doing that?
I'm not going to say...
I said my criteria. No.
But top 15 player in the world when Paul George is not in the top 15.
I'm comparing season by season. I'm comparing
and I'm
season
telling
by
you
season.
That is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous if we're talking players, but I'm going season by season. Was Paul George a top 15 player that season? He wasn't even a top 100 player that season because he didn't play that season. He did not play a lick of that.
Bro, Kevin Durant didn't even play enough games. I didn't say Kevin Durant. What? What
Kevin
are we talking
Durant was
about?
Injured for how long?
Was injured for 27 games.
Kevin Durant, by season. Season by season. That's how I do my super teams. Season by season.
Please stop talking about the 2016 Hawks. Or 2015 Hawks, bro.
Get it right.
2015 Hawks. Sorry, my bad.
Give me Brooklyn, Brook Lopez.
Team, that literally, if they are a super team, that literally means that LeBron is Thanos. If that's the case. Because he
LeBron went to the finals 8 years in a row. He is Thanos.
LeBron James in the
he
Eastern Conference. In the Eastern Conference, he is Thanos, right?
Yes.
But I look at the Hawks as a team that just won a lot of damn games.
I get it. They were weak. I get it. They were weak.
That's why the Toronto Raptors are super team. They won a lot of games. And
they only had 2 All-Stars.
LeBron.
The most that they've ever had was 2 All-Stars.
So you're counting Kyle Korver with the All-Star next to his name.
I don't
DeMar
care.
Carroll.
The idea of a super
you
team.
Said 4
if you're
All-Stars.
if you're an All-Star, you are in the top 25 discussion for players in that season. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. I don't agree with it. I'm the number one guy who doesn't agree with it. You're acting like I'm not agreeing with this. I hate that he was an All-Star. I hate that him and Jeff Teague were All-Stars.
So change your stupid criteria.
No, but I'm taking my criteria when I'm looking at it. I'm sticking with it because it's like, you know what? I'm not just gonna give this team a special. They're the worst. They're delusional. They're the worst freaking super team that fit my criteria, yes, but they still fit my criteria to be a super team. I have to list them off as a super team.
Because you're calling them the worst
they are by
super
far the worst.
team when I would call them one of the best teams without a true star. I want to show them credit. To say they're a super team, I think is disrespectful because they are by far the worst super team.
And he's giving them that, but I'm giving them I'm just saying that they are literally like one of the best regular season teams ever. And to be in that box, do you realize what company they're in? They're in conversation with the Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert Utah Jazz of 2017 on until they got traded. They're in that conversation with like the Spurs for the years in which they weren't making it to all the way to the finals. Like they're in that conversation with the Mavericks back in the day when Dirk was giving them 60+ wins. Like they're in a good mix of people. But I don't think they're a super team. I think they're a regular season like Cinderella story.
Regular season juggernaut.
Yeah, like that. Like something like that. I can't give them a super team because I can't say to them that that's disrespectful to the Warriors and the Heatles and the Celtics alone to even say that this team has a shot at being mentioned in the same conversation as them, even if they're at the bottom of the totem pole. I'm not even giving them that. They're not even walking into this room right now. They are waiting outside. Okay,
and neither can the Knicks, but they just weren't like my criteria. Is just they weren't
the 2018
built like they weren't.
Thunder for like Hoop said, we hyped up that 2018 Thunder a lot, and the only reason that we did that was because big threes in basketball always catch the eye of fans. They always have. That's just how it is, right? You can look back at the league in 2011 through 2013, 2014 when LeBron first joined Miami. What was the makeup of the league? It was D-Wade, LeBron, Bosh. It was Rose, Noah, and Boozer, or Luol Deng, or however you want to look at it.
He just said,
"You damn right I said it. You damn right I said it."
Carlos Boozer in a big three at that stage of his career.
That was who they made their offseason move for back in 2010's offseason. And what did that offseason move? What did that result to? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because let me tell you what it did do. Let me tell you what that offseason move did do. The Chicago Bulls in the offseason, ladies and gentlemen, right before Derrick Rose went on to become the youngest MVP of all time. What the Chicago Bulls decided to do was they needed a push for a guy. They needed to bring in a guy. They wanted an all-star. What did they go get? They got Carlos Boozer. And what did he do that season? Not shit, really. He played probably like 45 games, maybe like 50. He missed a good chunk of the season. So did Joakim Noah. And Derrick Rose, in their absence, as the only offensive option on this team outside of Luol Deng and the only ball handler on this team outside of himself, was able to get them to the best record in the entire league with the first year of the Big Three Miami Heat among us, right? Go all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. So if we're talking criterias, Rose must just be a superhero, all right? You know, ain't no super team. but that motherfucker Batman or something. That's the Windy City Assassin right there. We need some more credit right there. Come on.
There's not enough time.
I want to wait before. I know we're
I'm sorry
nearing the
about
end of
going
the
in
episode.
that Hawks rant, but I had to.
It's fine. I know, but before we end the episode, I want to, because I'm an OKC fan, I want to tell you guys why I didn't consider OKC to be a super team. Carmelo Anthony is trash, and any player that comes from the New York Knicks will never be considered. No. But here's. I wanted to list OKC as a super team, and I do in the sense that beforehand, like if you were to look at their expectations going into the season, you can call them a super team. So yeah, but I don't look at them as a super team because number one, I'm an Oklahoma fan, and I want to forget that year ever happened. And number two, Melo averaged 16 points per game on 40% in OKC and was genuinely the reason why we were so trash, and I hate that guy. No, I love Melo, I'm joking. But I'm just saying, like I do, like obviously beforehand they are a super team, like heading into that season, but I don't look back and think, man, that was a super team. I think back and think, man, I was depressed for that year. Like I had depression.
So what about 2012? What about the 2012 Thunder?
No, they were no. You can't call the 2012 Thunder a super team. No.
If we're gonna call the 20,
what was James Harden in that season heading into that season? What were the expectations for the Thunder heading into that season? James Harden was not good, or he was good.
No,
he wasn't.
you said you could choose criteria though. They made the finals.
Yeah,
like they don't have to fit all your criteria as long as they check a box off.
But James Harden wasn't an all-star. James Harden,
he turned into a sixth man of the year.
That's what I was saying.
But he became a real star in.
So by the end of
sixth man of the year, who was competing for sixth man of the year that year? Like what did Harden average?
So 2012 Harden or 2015 Kyle Korver? Tell me right now. Who you want?
Oh no, that's nasty. Let's not do this.
Relative to the season, Z.
Remember,
I'm talking relative to the season. I'll say Harden, but we're talking relative to the season. No, but I don't see the Thunder being a super team only because they only had two stars and they were young at the time in Westbrook and Kevin Durant. And they did go to the finals because they really turned up that year. But it was the Russ KD show. It was like a duo. It was more of a duo and a good team around them rather than a trio. Because Harden didn't even start.
By choice.
No, it was by Sam Presti.
Well, Harden said in his documentary that he didn't want to come. That he wanted to come off the bench because he saw like how the flow was.
Of course he said that. I wanted to be a bench player, and I wanted to. That's why he left to Houston and became a superstar. He wanted to be a bench player, right? Come on, that's cap.
No,
you can't smell the cap.
That's heavy cap. That's heavy cap.
He wanted his bag.
No, they didn't. No, you don't smell the cap. Like, be honest.
Okay, I can see where you're coming from. You are a Thunder fan. I understand.
I didn't want to start,
but.
No, it's because Westbrook was already a scoring guard and they didn't need Harden and his lack of defense in that lineup. They went and brought Thabo Sefolosha and let him start because they needed some defensive presence in the backcourt.
When did Roberson show up?
Roberson showed up, I think, in like 2013, 2014 is when he started being good. I don't remember when he got drafted, but he wasn't like a key player. Until
now. Imagine if Ben Simmons just like wanted to play basketball. He could, and he would be Andre Roberson, and that's cool. Like, that's fine.
No, he would be Andre Roberson with a little pizzazz. Like I'll tell you right now, Andre Roberson has absolutely
Andre Roberson with a star next to his name.
Not no offensive bag, no offensive anything. I don't know what to call Andre Roberson on offense. I think I've genuinely seen that guy make 3 threes in his career. I'm being honest.
And they've all been from the corner.
I saw a compilation on YouTube of him airballing free throws for what might have been 6 minutes.
I don't understand how a man that cannot shoot a shot on the court had hit the greatest shot of all time off the court. And you guys know damn well what I'm talking about.
Oh, my God.
That man.
I feel you.
That man. That's why I respect it. Like, when people talk about the greatest shooters of all time, you better put Andre Roberson in that conversation. You put Andre Roberson in that conversation. He actually has a better percentage off the court than he does on the court in terms of shooting the ball. And I have to
caught a bag on the court.
And he still caught a bag. That guy's living his best life. Don't think I'm an Andre Roberson hater. You see the OKC hat in the back. They might have cropped me because I realized we're doing 9:16. But I love the guy. And he, to this day, I have envy in my heart. To this day, I think about that. To this day. Bro got think about it this way, bro. Bro got a 2K TV interview. The episodes went episode 1, Kevin Durant. Episode 2, John Wall. Episode 3, Andre Roberson. Episode 4, DeMarcus Cousins. Think about it. Those were the pool of players. Those were the pool of players, and who got chosen? Who got chosen? I'm going to end the episode off on that. That's how you, when you tell your kids who are the best clutch performers of all time, you look at that group of players and you tell me who won.
And you tell them Andre Roberson was the best.
Only one of those 4 guys got a ring. Only one of them, and that was Kevin Durant. Only one of them guys got a ring. So what else do we got to compare them to it? So if I'm talking second best, who else am I comparing?
But Sadie, we don't have enough time, but we wanted to talk about the success. What makes it a successful super team? This might have to be
I'll go over it quick. Nothing. There has to be it's what they go into the season, heading into the season. The success they could get bounced out in the first round, i.e. the Lakers.
Well, no, I'm saying like what makes a successful super team.
Oh, successful super. I thought you said like what? Like, oh, okay.
I wanted to get into a whole debate asking if whether or not
I think you need a ring.
A successful
if
super
you're
team.
Considered a super team and you didn't get a ring, that's not successful. And I think any team in general, like if your goal is to compete in the playoffs, if you didn't get a ring, you're not successful.
But so my criteria is different. I think you need to, if you're healthy and the team is not, there's no locker room, whatever, like no weird stuff's going on. You should beat every team that is not a super team. So I think the Heat, while yes, they had more success than a lot of super teams, I wouldn't consider them a success. They lost twice to 2 guys who are not super teams.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up when Z said, the Heat had their dominance in their run.
I think the only truly successful super team was Golden State because they lost to Toronto when they were hurt. Everything else, they were running through everyone.
But
here's the
thing.
Here's where we switch.
Is that the only successful super team?
The only truly successful one. Other teams have had success, but like
I'm gonna
ask,
like true success.
I'd have to look back.
Yeah,
because there might be one in the 70s or something. But that's
so
the
like
one that comes to mind.
In modern history, it's only because the Warriors, bro. It was literally like I wasn't even excited for basketball in those years.
Yeah, no, that's what it's supposed to be like. It's supposed to be unfair, unfair basketball.
Here's the thing.
That's what happened with the Hawks. Like going, no,
no, shut up. I'm gonna go ahead and give mine, and I want to really keen in on the point that he brought up with the Warriors. The Heat are not a failed super team to me, and if they are a failed super team, the only reason is because if y'all remember the 2011, like the year when they got together, when all the media campaigns were running, LeBron was doing the decision, and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh were on the same newscast talking about both of them going to Miami, like. But the way in which the world looked after the decision went down is how I judge a super team, right? LeBron went out there and literally said, we're going not 5, not 6, not 7. But at the time, when you look at how everybody was looking at this team and the assembly of talent and how the league itself was looking at them, they became the villains because it wasn't fair. Like that was how people viewed it. Like this isn't fair. You don't become the bad guys because everybody's like, oh, yay, like, they got together, like now they're about to win 5 straight championships, whatever. But so I don't really look at them in that regard. But they did win 2 in 4 years and went to 4 straight finals. They ran into German Jesus and Dirk in the middle of a Cinderella run. And I mean, before that, they had won 27 straight games at one point. So, and that's the second longest, I think, streak in modern American sports history for a regular season. So that's insane. That's the dominance I'm talking about, especially in the conference alone. The Warriors, on the other hand, is the same exact thing. A beautiful brand of basketball, and this is the last thing I'm going to touch on because we're running out of time. But a beautiful brand of basketball, all that. Hoop, you just said that you have to beat the other teams that aren't considered super teams. So when I look at, why is that the case though? When I look at the Golden State Warriors from 2017 to 2018, and I hear people say all the time that if Kawhi Leonard was healthy in 2017, the Warriors would lose. And if Chris Paul's healthy in Game 7, the Warriors lose.
I'm just saying like that's a hypothetical. I'm not
gonna. We do have to wrap up here, boys.
Am I supposed to discredit a team that won a ring off a hypothetical? Like I can't do that.
You're not, and I don't.
No,
I don't.
I can hold someone to a higher regard. For example, KD could have another ring against Phoenix if he didn't step his foot on the line. Like he had Kyrie and Harden. Like that's different, but that's hypothetical. I'm not going to discredit someone's ring because of that.
Because you could discredit literally every ring.
You could discredit
go back and discredit every ring. But that's a wrap. This is episode 62. And also apologies for being a week late on an episode. We did have an episode recorded to post regularly the episode beforehand, but there was an issue with editing, so we had to scrap it. Which is why you're receiving this episode. We back, but we skipped the Monday episode. So you're hearing us on the Friday. Our last episode was last Friday. Our apologies. Sometimes these things happen. But this was an absolute banger of an episode, and expect episodes like these moving forward because we have just been cooking lately. And I'd love to see it. But we'll see you in episode 63. Peace.